Hare Krishna, welcome back for part 2 of the Japa journey map. Just so I have a sense of what needs to be covered in the initial portion, can I see a show of hands of how many had attended yesterday's session? So number had not attended. So so before I begin though, I wanted to show this link because I know we'll get at the end. As I mentioned, a lot of the content has been culled out from this awesome book. After I've spoken on this subject in 2 different other locations, Phoenix and Houston and Naperville, there were many devotees came up to me and said, you know, the Japa book has been my lifeline in chanting Japa too, so thank you for highlighting it. So this morning my wife sent me a picture of, I don't know where it came from, but a collage of all kinds of pictures with me and the kids. Lo behold, there was a picture of me and the kids in that collage reading the Japa book to them when they were like itsy bitsy teeny weeny kids. So if you want to purchase a copy, that's a link. I do not get a commission, I promise you. Although it's a good idea. So what we covered yesterday is the Japa journey map being a meandering journey of love, humility and faith. And very briefly we talked about how each one of these elements are actually quite intertwined with one another. Love, humility and faith. The more humility increases, the more faith increases, the more love increases. The more love increases, the more humility and faith increase, and so forth. They're intertwined qualities. We gave the analogy of a river, how every journey is like a distinct river that meanders in a unique way, having different kinds of obstacles. Each one of us will face different obstacles in our life that is not exactly the same as the person next to us. And we invoked Queen Kunti's prayers where she says, Gange Vogamudanvati, let my mind flow to you, Krishna, just like the Ganges flow to the ocean. And sometimes rivers dry up, and today we'll talk a little bit about why some rivers dry up, metaphorically, why some people leave Krishna consciousness, sometimes, the practice anyway. We discussed how Adav Shraddha, what Adav Shraddha is, how it begins. There are 2 kinds of Shraddha, Laukika or Loka Parampara Shraddha, and Shastriya Shraddha, or the very strong internal Swabhaviki Shraddha. That leads to Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees. We talked about 3 different features that make devotee association wholesome. Affection. Anyone else remember the other 2? It's not there. Remove it. Like-minded? And more advanced, yes. Yes. Snigdhasya, Sajatya and Vara. We talked about how this Sadhu Sangha, through Sadhu Sangha we get trained in the benefits of chanting the holy name, the power of chanting the holy name. Shikshashtakam 1, and the glories of Shikshashtakam 1 that leads to Bhajana Kriya. Some of the text here is pretty tiny, so I'm going to zoom in here. And the 4 features that we mentioned about the Bhajana Kriya stage is one, our value system starts to morph. We start to develop an internal purpose of life. We get a goal of life. Prabhupada explains in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, largely our mind becomes disturbed because of want of a goal of life. And you have a goal, now your mind can be a little bit more steady. And through the practice of Bhajana Kriya, we try to bring the mind back from its wandering antics and practicing detachment, followed by the idea of getting glimpses. In the Bhajana Kriya stage we get little drops of nectar that Krishna may give you that keeps you focused to keep going. Just like Narada is offered a little glimpse of Krishna. In the first canto of the Bhagavatam, this is discussed how Narada is offered this glimpse and Krishna says, I'm not going to come again. But he continues. And he's encouraged by Krishna to continue. So the Bhajan Kriya stage is where one might get glimpses of Krishna, glimpses of peace, glimpses of strength. We talked about how we might have certain weaknesses or areas of growth that we've thought about for ourselves, but all of a sudden the chanting gives us that inner strength. Often, there are some attachments that are easy to let go of, and that's the strength we might feel. But there are some that stick on and on and on. 30 years later of chanting the holy name, it's still there. And we'll talk about that too today. So, bhajana kriya. Then the devotee understands that actually there's a bit of a problem here. I'm chanting the holy name. There may be peaks of ecstasy or peaks of joyous experiences, but then it can be a little problematic, dry. There's no taste. And it feels like this barricade has come upon us. And why is there no taste? We talked about how Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this idea of why there is no taste. He gives 4 different reasons, all 4 of them are displayed here. And he takes each one of these 4 and he divides it into 4 parts within each one. So there's 16 reasons why we don't have taste. It's a bunch of reasons. In previous sessions, in previous workshops, we'd have everyone sort of take some time to journal. I found that devotees, when they took a little bit of time to journal, 2 things. One is what is it that helped you start the process of Krishna consciousness? And the second, what for you, because like I said, every river has its own unique set of obstacles. What for you is a beautiful blend of these 4 obstacles that prevent you from experiencing taste? Again, often I usually get the response that I check all the boxes, Prabhu. All of them, 100%. I have got good grades on each one of them. But actually, if we're objective with ourselves and introspective enough, the fact is that there are some things that we are not so bad at, and some things we could probably be much better at, right? And so it's good to, Vishnu Chakri Thakur explains in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam that it is very important, very beautiful, very beneficial to move forward to understand the doshas and the gunas that are in our antakarana, meaning the subtle body that makes us up. There's a soul, but then we're dealing with an antakarana, an internal body or internal subtle body that has qualities and faults, which, by the way, has got nothing to do with the soul. The soul is pure, that remains above and aloof from these gunas and doshas. Yet it is very beneficial to introspect and to recognize what blend of these items of no taste impact me as a bhakta, as an individual trying to chant the holy name. So that's where we ended yesterday, and then I concluded the class with 2 things. Okay, this can be quite depressing. Tattva vibhrama, lack of understanding, asatrishna, thirst for the temporary, weakness of heart and offenses, so many varieties of them. It can be quite depressing and almost insurmountable obstacles. So, what to do? And so we ended the talk with 2 things that we can do to help ourselves. Anyone recall what those 2 things were? I can't hear who was that? Oh, yes.
Try to focus on the holy name.
Pay attention to the holy name, yes?
And not criticize others.
And not to make offenses, yeah. Not to criticize others. So those are 2 things. Thank you. Shoo. If nobody was going to respond, I was going to feel a little depressed myself. No, I'm joking. Okay, so what's next? So now we're going to try to move into more depression. The Anartha Nivritti stage. Da-da-da-dum. Anartha. Anartha means unwanted things. Artha means that which is wanted or gives value. Anartha means that which is not of value. Nivritti, and it's a stage of nivritti, which means it's removal of anarthas. It's not necessarily being more conscious of anarthas or things within the heart that prevent us from connecting with Radha Krishna through the medium of the holy name. It's, you may become more conscious of anarthas, but that is not what this stage means. This stage means where there is active removal, nivritti, of anarthas. This stage spans from bhajana kriya all the way to nishtha. And so in different grades, anartha is removed. It's not that one does anything different in the anartha nivritti stage than, let's say, the bhajana kriya stage, except that things become more enhanced and more powerful. Just like you might move from second gear to fifth gear in the anartha nivritti stage. It means you're really scrubbing hard. You're taking a shower and you're really like using one of those sponges to clean the dirt with vigor. So, the symptom of one being in this stage is there is a willingness to give up things that hold us back. We were recently in, so last weekend, this is today's Friday? So last Saturday, a week ago, six days ago, we were at the Vyas Puja ceremony of His Holiness Rompada Swami. And in the morning class, he spoke, not Saturday, I'm sorry, Friday morning. He spoke on this subject about how we're going through our journey in life, in Krishna consciousness, and sometimes we can get stuck. And that feeling of being stuck is like, probably experience it here in Portland with the amount of rain you receive. Your car may get stuck in some muddy area and you actually need someone to push it to get through being stuck. In Krishna consciousness, part of the reason why we might get stuck is because there may not be sufficient willingness to let go. We have a holding on to those very things that prevent us from reaching Krishna. And sometimes, the way I've heard my spiritual master say this is, if we are attached to our attachments, then we might get washed away. Not just the anartha gets washed away, we might get washed away. Because bhakti is so powerful that it cleanses anarthas. And if we hold on to anarthas, then we ourselves get washed away with the power of bhakti. Anyway, so in anartha nivritti stage, the purpose is deepening. So remember how we talked in bhajana kriya, there's a the birth of purpose. All of a sudden, life is not about living the American dream. Life is now about, re-establishing this very sacred and inner connection with God. And now that purpose starts to become more refined, stronger, deeper, just like you might make kheer. When you cook kheer, and sometimes kheer is very watery. I don't know about you, but I prefer the rubbery style kheer when it gets really thick, and that's where the purpose, now in the anartha nivritti stage, the purpose is becoming stronger. Symptomized by persons are looking forward to chanting the holy name. So tomorrow, 64 round day, we just heard Maharaj is recommending that we prepare ourselves, take rest early, take prasadam lightly, Wake up early in the morning, chant as much as possible, right? With eagerness. Skip breakfast. By the way, we've done this sufficient times. If you skip breakfast, you will see that chanting is sustained. If you have breakfast, I don't know, in my experience personally, as well as in talking to devotees, if you have breakfast on 64 round day, the likelihood of you maintaining attention past breakfast is about 20 to 30%. This is speculation, but just based on my own, my own experience of talking to devotees of what happens. So, I'm just saying, someone's going to be cooking, and they're probably going to be upset at me that I'm encouraging not to eat. Okay, so eagerness to chant and getting ready for. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, and his practice was, and the way he encourages us to do this is the night before, to journal what went well in the day, what didn't go so well, and what I'd like to improve for tomorrow, and specifically to how I'd like to improve my chanting of the holy name tomorrow morning. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's advice, every night to do that. So a symptom of the anartha nivritti stage is where this purpose is deepening, so it's where the eagerness to engage in bhakti, the practices of bhakti, with as much heart as we can give it, increases. By the way, this fire of sincerity is what propels one through a very challenging phase which comes next, which is the desert phase. This fire of sincerity is critical. In this stage also, we start to understand the value of devotee association more. And we also recognize that it is in the association of devotees that purpose deepens. On my own, I have very little capability or capacity to strengthen my own purpose. But in the association of devotees, because we're social beings and we're very influenced by the, there's a famous saying, what is it? Tell me who your friends are and I can tell you who you are, right? So a person in this stage is understanding, okay, my purpose becomes accentuated, increased, enhanced by that association of devotees. Tomorrow again, when we're chanting the holy name, for a long time, 8 hours if you chant 2 hours for 16 rounds, is that if you're in the temple room where devotees are focused, generally your mind will become more focused. Now, there may be the way the mind works is quite fascinating, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but sometimes it may need a break. In Phoenix, one lady who never chanted 64 rounds said a message that really helped her was the message of self-care. She had received a message of self-care. And so she stopped chanting sometimes, drank water, took a walk, did what she needed to do to just calm her mind down, take care of physical bodily needs. I don't know if she took a nap, but taking a nap can be helpful too. And then come back and re-engage with the holy name with vigor. So that item of self-care, being conscious of that while trying our best to be in the association of devotees, can be very effective. So, because of this deepening purpose, prioritizing chanting increases. How the time of day we pick to chant the holy name, not chanting when we're driving, which is common for grahasthas, unfortunately, to do it while driving. I spend an hour and a half in the road. May as well just use it for my japa time, right? My barometer of what is acceptable place and time to chant is based on whether I can close my eyes and do one of these things. Right? So you'll see people. If I can close my eyes and do this, then whatever I'm doing is fine to chant japa. If you're driving, can you try doing this? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Unless you have the self-driving feature in Tesla nowadays. Apparently the software's got better. Some people are cooking and chanting. If you can, again, my barometer is this. You can close your eyes and shake your head. That's fine. So you pick the right time to chant, the mood in which you chant. You wanna enhance the mood. And you're very conscious of what helps and what doesn't help. For example, this is one of my recent experiences. I took a walk with a friend. I asked a friend, we were in a very sacred place. I told a friend, hey, would you like to go for a Japa walk? I said, sure, very close friend of mine. So we went for a Japa walk. The previous day I went for a Japa walk too, just by myself. And I noticed that walking with a friend, actually, we both were doing Japa, it reduced my concentration. So and each of us will have our own little experiences of these kind of things. In the Anartha Nivritti stage is where you notice what helps and you say no to it. I mean, sorry, you say yes to it and you say no to that which doesn't help. At the same time, we recognize that the mind is not going to slow down. So, the Anartha Nivritti stage, we've got to confront it. We're dealing with a mad, crazy mind. A mind that is so interested in judging and comparing and evaluating. That mind is constant. Even when we're chanting japa, the Japa book presents something like this. Even when we're chanting japa, the mind will think, is it good to close your eyes or open your eyes? And then it'll start contemplating while chanting Hare Krishna. You're supposed to be thinking about my eternal relationship with the Lord of loving service. I'm thinking, is it better to close my eyes or open my eyes? If I open my eyes, I can see the devotees are walking towards the prasadam room. I'm wondering, what's for prasadam? Maybe I should have helped out, huh? Cooking prasadam instead of chanting. No, but I'm okay. Maybe I should just close my eyes. I'll just close my eyes and chant. And then the mind goes to, you're constantly evaluating whether you should close your eyes or open your eyes. And then you start criticizing yourself. You're always doing this. Always. That's an interesting word. Why do we always use the word always? I'm not always doing that. And this is just the commentary of the mind that keeps going on. It's just it's like a radio from Japan or something, just constantly speaking. These are more benign, maybe more benign ones, but then it gets pretty heavy. Sometimes it's comparing and evaluating. Check out that other person. Either trying to criticize them. Look at how they're chanting. They're falling asleep. I'm better than them. At least I'm not falling asleep. Or, that person has a nice dhoti or a sari on. That looks nice, actually. Maybe I need to get me one of those. Maybe my chanting would improve if I got a better dhoti or sari. Jai Shishi, Nitai Sachinandan ki Jai. The mind has this nature to constantly evaluate, constantly judge, constantly compare. And there are many self-help teachers who will say, don't compare, right? Because it's just the nature of the mind. We have been gifted this beautiful mind that just has these features to it. The mind likes to stay stuck in lamentation and wishing and hoping, if only I was younger when I came to Krishna consciousness. If only I had picked the right education and the right career. If only I'd picked the right guru. If only I was more beautiful. If only if I was a better cook. If only I was more successful. If only I had more followers on LinkedIn. The mind will also enter into this idea of boredom. I'm bored now. I need to be engaged. Especially when you're chanting. 64 rounds. Each round 108 mantras. Each mantra 16 mantras. Do the math. That's over 100,000 names. By the way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that he will only go to someone's house for a meal if they're a lakpati, meaning they have $100,000 or rupees, I don't know. Actually, it means names. 64 rounds equals to about 100,000 names. So if we chant 64 rounds tomorrow, there's a good chance that we become eligible for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to have a meal with us. But the mind, when it's chanting so many rounds, it can feel bored. And it can really pester you. I'm feeling bored. And the mind loves distraction. Right? It just loves distraction. Anything to start looking at my phone. Or what's happening in the back of the room. Right? It loves it. If we're feeling so pushed by the mind to be distracted, here's a tip, a pro tip as they say. Just stop chanting, finish your round, and read something. Or pray to Krishna. Or do something devotional to sort of reset and then come back to chanting. Don't get too used to that because the mind will keep saying, oh wonderful, keep doing that then. So it's managing the mind is not easy. I'm going to read for you a little section which says, from the Japa book, the mind, which is the most gross of the subtle elements. So there's the body, there's the life airs, and then right close to the life airs is the mind. That's why they say when you breathe, you're able to control your mind. And just, most subtle in the mind is the intelligence, most subtle in the intelligence is the false ego, most subtle in the false ego is ultimately the soul. The mind and the false ego work in this way. The mind protects the false sense of self, meaning false ego. The mind protects the false sense of self by imposing a sense of significance on the inconsequential. I'll say it again because it's deep. The mind protects the false sense of self by imposing a sense of significance on the inconsequential. When we're chanting japa, it might be, it's so important, I need to tell my partner this. So I'm going to stop chanting and tell them. Is it really that important? Whatever we do today, we talked about this yesterday, whatever we do in our lives, what does it matter 100 years from now? Is it that important? But the mind will make things really important. If someone said something that hurt my feelings and criticized me, we have the tendency to hold on to it. Especially when chanting. I've noticed when laying horizontal or when chanting, those are the times when the mind is most active and it exaggerates everything. Especially little relationship issues and conflicts and tension in relationships. As soon as there's tension in relationship, the first thing to reduce in quality is chanting. During the chanting time, our mind goes back to that. And it makes it big. It makes it really big. How dare they? Don't they know who I am? Right? You get stuck there. So the mind is ever shifting, always grasping, forever lamenting, materialistic mind. I want to read a few more things about the mind. This is again from the Japa book. The mind is our only source of material happiness and distress. Other people, and this is almost impossible to accept, are not the cause of our pleasure and grief. Think about this deeply. It is common for us to take shelter of the mind because we tend to believe that what we think and feel is true, but it is not. We can't move planets favorably or move another person we don't like to a different land to line up with our desires. We can't send disagreeers to a different place. We can't stop the separation of people we love. People die, or people just move to a different place. We can't stop. We love them. We don't want to move away from them. But it happens. And even if we could do that, if we could control where everybody goes, the mind, by its very nature, will still not be satisfied. Interesting, huh? We have no control over our world, and that causes us fear and frustration. Yet this is how Krishna constructed it. The universe simply refuses to cooperate with our false ego. It refuses to align itself with our vision of being the center or to organize everything and everyone around our conception of happiness, peace, comfort, justice is a big one. I want justice, I want fairness. The universe is designed to make us miserable so that we learn that we should not take shelter of the mind. So what to do? We've been gifted this wonderful mind. So here are the four things, four techniques of controlling the mind that our acharyas give us. The first one is beat the mind. This is a little abusive, but this is Bhaktisiddhanta's method. He says you wake up in the morning and the first thing to do is you take one of those broomsticks, not a light broomstick, a pretty heavy one, and you beat the mind, and you beat the mind, and you beat the mind. How many times? 10,000 times? You dude. He said 100 times. So he said, Bhaktisiddhanta said, you beat the mind 100 times. Pow, pow, pow. And at night, before you go to sleep, what do? No, you're not the same thing. You take a shoe, not a broomstick. Take a shoe and you beat the mind 100 times. What is that beating of the mind? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that beating of the mind is to say, dear mind, you are not so sincere. Don't think yourself so great. And that you think another person is not a good Vaishnava? Don't do that. His words specifically are like this. Don't criticize others considering I am so sincere. Find fault with yourself, damn mind. That's what he says, is beating the mind. Now I will present a disclaimer here. My personal disclaimer for this is that you got to watch it. If someone has low self-esteem issues and you're prone to depression, don't do this. It's only going to get worse. You have to have a healthy relationship with your mind to be able to beat it. Just like you need to have a healthy relationship with a kid to chastise the child. You know, or a spiritual master needs to have a healthy relationship with a disciple to chastise the disciple. Similarly, if we have sufficient distancing from our mind, then you can beat it. But if you identify very strongly with your mind, then you will be beaten. It makes sense? There's any of you guys know Brené Brown? You know Brené Brown? Anyone else know Brené Brown? Brené Brown. So she's a good sociologist, PhD in sociology. She does a lot of research work, very insightful lady. Something she talks about as good leadership is a quality called metacognition. How many of you in IT over here, or engineering or something like that? Holiness. Do you know what data is? You're a data engineer. You know what data is, right? You know what metadata is? Data about data, or data that represents or describes the data, right? Similarly, there's something that she presents called metacognition. Your ability to think about your own thinking. That ability, or metacognition, is a quality of a leader, or a progressive leader, or a good leader. Is someone who can think about their own thinking, or how they think, and they can understand. It means they stand back and they look at their own thinking, and they have introspection enough to know what the channels of their thought go through. Which means, in simple words, you disassociate from your own mind. And our scriptures are replete with this message, to see ourselves separate from the mind. It's a Buddhist teaching, it's a modern pop psychology teaching, it's of course our Vedic teaching as well, to be able to separate ourselves from the mind. And then you can certainly beat it at that point. That's the first one. The second one is to plead with the mind. So Raghunath Das Goswami has written a beautiful book called Mana Shiksha, Instructions to the Mind. And if you see in those verses, he is pleading with the mind. Every verse is a plea to the mind. Back in 2009, I want to say, Rampada Maharaj used to do Gita Nagari, in Gita Nagari, a farm community in Pennsylvania, Japa retreats. Do you remember those? You came to some of those? Yeah. I think it was 2009 where one of the exercises was to write a prayer to the mind. I still remember the prayer I wrote to the mind. We all wrote a prayer to the mind and we offered that prayer to the mind. Please, my dear mind, please just once, let me hear the holy name with purity. Somehow that guy didn't listen to me. It's like... Anyway, there's one devotee I know who's a temple president of a temple somewhere. And for many years he's been the temple president of that place. And I asked the devotee, I said, it's so challenging, such a challenging service that you're doing. How is it that you keep going? And here's what he told me. He said, I told my mind, many lifetimes you have really screwed up. Many lifetimes. You've got me in a body after a body after body after body, and I'm still stuck with you. Just this one lifetime is for Krishna. Just this one. I felt so inspired to hear that. Isn't that beautiful? So plead with the mind. Raghunath Das Goswami, in the very first verse of Mana Shiksha, he says, my dear mind, please give up your pride. Please give up pride and have indomitable attachment to Radha Krishna, to your Gayatri Mantra, to Hari Nam, to your spiritual master. Please. Like that. So this is one second way to deal with the mind. The third way, and this is Prabhupada's favorite, is ignore the mind. Somebody asked yesterday at the end of class, what should we meditate on? When Prabhupada was asked that question, my mind is troubling me a lot when I'm chanting. What should I do with the mind? Prabhupada said, where's the question of mind? You're chanting with your tongue and you're hearing with the ear. Where's the question of mind? Ignore the mind. And how Prabhupada not just exemplified, but also structured the movement is he filled people's life with service. Because if your life is filled with service, the mind has the manorathena, the chariot of the mind has less chances to drag you into deep dark places that will take you off course. When you have responsible service to do. So, pack your life with 24-hour service. That was Prabhupada's method. Ultimately, there's no way out but to neglect the mind. There are times in life when we experience this bad dog, good dog fight that's happening within us. We're pulled in one direction and we know better. And it's almost like we're slipping off the edge of a cliff. And we know it, we can sense it, right? I shouldn't go down that path, but it's such a strong tendency, it's a weakness. What to do at that point? That's where this scream for help comes in. So Raghunath Das Goswami says, and generally those pushings are of two types. It's lust or anger. It might be others as well, but those two are the biggest ones, lust and anger. So here is how Raghunath Das Goswami says it. I have been attached by the gang of my own lust and anger and so on. They have bound my neck with the troublesome, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds. I am being killed. Cry out piteously like this to the devotees of Sri Krishna, the destroyer of Baka. O mind, they will save you from these enemies. So, another way, the fourth way to deal with the mind is you scream for help. Both to the killer of Baka, meaning Krishna, kill Baka and kill those desires within me that are taking me away from you. And scream and cry out to the devotees of Krishna, those pure devotees of Krishna who can help us with these things. So, some of us were there yesterday evening for Maharaj's class. I assume many were there for Maharaj's class, where he spoke about why. And then he went through Bhakti Sandarbha, talking about the 5 things that cause slackening in bhakti, if you remember. And the foundation was pride. Yes. Here's a quote from the Japa book on pride. Pride is a weed that chokes the devotional creeper. Yeah, we know that. So there's devotional creeper that we're all trying to cultivate in our hearts. But while we're cultivating devotion, trying to cultivate devotion, there are many weeds that come up, and one of those strongest weeds is the weed of pride. It's a weed, the Japa book says, it is a weed that often survives by deceptively disguising itself as humility. What? Pride is a weed that often survives by deceptively disguising itself as humility. Shoo! So we've got to be very watchful. The way I look at it, there's humility, and then there's second order humility. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, duplicity. So one of the first things that is caused by pride is kutinati, or duplicity. And then pratishthasha, or the desire for fame. These two things, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if we cannot overcome them, there's no way we're going to get strong attachment for chanting the holy name. Desire for fame and duplicity. So let's go back to Manashiksha. So we're doing a little comparison between Bhajan Rahasya by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. In Manashiksha, Raghunath Das Goswami hits these very two things. And he says, my dear mind, why are you burning in the trickling urine of donkey pee? Which is duplicity. He calls duplicity, or this, where inside, Jiva Goswami explains that duplicity is where inside you don't necessarily have respect, but outward you show it. And so Raghunath Das Goswami says, this kind of mentality is having the urine of a donkey trickle on your head and you burn because of it. Why? Why don't you bathe yourself with the nectar of the shower of love from Radha Gandharvika, from the Supreme Lord and his consort? Is it getting depressing? It's getting worse. Well, let's get worse. It's going to get worse. The other thing is desire for fame. Raghunath Das Goswami says, the desire for fame, why do you hold on to this desire for fame, which is like a dog-eating prostitute dancing flagrantly in your heart? So, Raghunath Das Goswami gives us ways to deal with this mind. Now, I have to say, this is very strong language. I'm only saying what acharyas say, and this is not my language. I couldn't come up with this stuff, even if I tried. It takes spiritual growth to see these things the way they're being described by the acharyas. And we may not be there, and it's okay. We can just know the road ahead may look like that for us as we become more attuned. Here's the thing, when spiritual growth happens, the devotees become more attuned to deviations of pure bhakti. So even though their consciousness has evolved and become purer, as you become purer, you become more conscious of the impurity in the heart. Just like people who love to live in a clean environment are very conscious of the smallest speck that is in their house. And people who don't care, I have a picture sometimes when I show of people living in dorm rooms in college. You don't give a crap, right? I mean, it's like you walk in, you might find a mouse underneath, something. And there's things all over the place, etc. You're not conscious. But as you become purer, you become very conscious of the slightest specks of dirt. So that's what's happening. So, this takes us to the next stage of feeling or being in the proverbial desert. The flagrant dancing prostitute, dog-eating prostitute. I don't know where he picks that from, but that's really interesting. This phase is where, so there was a Catholic saint who came up with this term in Spanish, La noche oscura del alma, or in English, the dark night of the soul. The sincerity of the devotee drives them through this stage where they're feeling utterly in despair of their own inability to overcome their problems. It's despair. And it's not just our tradition, it's, as you can see, the dark night of soul is a common phenomena for serious spiritualists. The soul is experiencing second order humility. Remember we talked about that first order humility that can be cloaked with the weed of pride? The second order humility is now awakening because they are conscious of three eyes. Not just superficially conscious, but deeply conscious of their impurities, the first line there. The second, their insignificance of how tiny they are. And the third, of their own inability to overcome their impurities. It's a rude awakening. The line says, rude awakening. Oh my God. The person is feeling humiliated. And this is the precursor to humility. Humiliation precedes humility. So said another way, a natural and a sincere desire to advance in Krishna consciousness will lead to humility. And humility is the foundation for the next stage, which is Nishtha, which is Namashraya. Namashraya is, we'll get to it, but is where humility becomes an irrevocable fact. So much so, if persons criticize you, you go, you know what? You probably only have a fleeting glimpse within my heart. And you haven't seen the full thing. And therefore, you're only saying that I am bad in a small way. Actually, I'm much worse. That's how a person in this humility is thinking. Because they have consciousness of their internal consciousness. They're conscious of their internal state of being, of their antakarana. They go, yuck. And so it's this deep despair of dark night of the soul. It is in this place that they're feeling, they start to feel anyway, lower than a blade of grass. You know, when we think about this, we talk about this all the time. Trinadapi Sunichena. How do you feel? How do you get to that point? I'm really lower than a blade of grass, unless you go through something like this. Let me read something from the Japa book on this topic. Yeah. Actually, humiliation seems to come even before humility. If I compare the sankalpas I made, meaning the determination that I am going to be better in my japa, for example, if I compare the sankalpas I made, or again, this is the new year, what often happens is we create New Year resolutions. I'm part of a gym that I go to pretty much 4 or 5 times a week. And you'll see right now in January, it's just like teeming with people. I don't get a spot to, go on the treadmill. And then you just wait a little bit, and in March it's fine. So if you compare the sankalpa, if I compare the sankalpas I made with what I actually did, the truth becomes clear. My determined effort to advance in Krishna consciousness, renouncing once and for all my anarthas, my offenses and petty material desires that have invaded my consciousness, has not been successful. I become painfully aware of my incapacity, overcome by my choosing to indulge in things unrelated to Krishna. I find myself embarrassed. We start to have to learn to be comfortable with shame. That's a problem sometimes for people, to be comfortable with shame. Here's another nice quote about humility. Humility is a natural result of the sincere desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. For those not so sincere, it is easy to think they're advancing very quickly. Why does devotees struggle when Krishna consciousness is obvious, natural and easy? Perhaps they see devotional service as a series of activities rather than a full surrendering of the heart. That's the thing. People who see Krishna consciousness as an external activity miss out on this fact that it's actually a shift of heart, a change of heart. So there's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavatam that says, Tadashmasaram hridayam vatedam yad griyamane harinam dheye na vikriyetata yada vikaro netre jalam gatra ruheshu harshaha, which says that heart is steel framed. This is a steel frame verse, if some of you know this. That heart is steel framed that doesn't transform by performing all the devotional activities. So the devotee in the desert realizes, I've been practicing for so long, trying to sincerely do this, but look at me. Tears are not coming in my eyes, my hair is not standing on end. I look at Krishna and I'm thinking about prasadam. So then, Okay, so it's humility. At this stage of there is strong repentance, as you can imagine. That repentance that one might feel is what will wash away. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, repentance is a quality of a Vaishnava. That repentance washes away lust, anger, greed, and all of the things that trouble the devotee. It's repentance. And repentance is only found in a place of humility. What helps us to go through this desert? Because again, does it sound depressing? Yes, right? What helps us to go through this desert? Number one, something I learned in pastoral care education, which I really love this quote. It's better to walk in the dark with someone than to walk in the light alone. To have friends who can help us, Vara, people who are better, more realized than us, they can help us through this dark night of the soul. Lord Brahma prays to Krishna, Tattenu kampam susumikshamano Bunjanevatma kritam vipakam Ridvagva purbhir vidadhan namaste Jivetayo mukti pade sadaibhak. So he says that Jiveta, or Jiva Goswami explains that Jiveta, just staying alive. Staying alive. Staying alive. Some of you know that song? Yeah. Just staying alive in Krishna consciousness, sticking with our devotional practices through this tough phase with friends that we can rely on is what will help us. Just staying alive. And we might find ourselves embarrassed because, you know what? I'm far from what I would like to be. What does Krishna say about that? Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita also is like, I'm struggling. What to do? Tapa trena bihitasya gore. Uddhava says, I'm surrounded by misery because of my own consciousness. And Krishna tells him, you know what is good, and still you don't do what's good for you, and you're going to experience misery. So how should you respond to that situation? He says, Tato bhajeta mam prita, be happy. Shraddhalur didanishya. So he says, be happy. Meaning, don't get depressed. Garhayan, you regret it. Krishna says you regret, your deviations of consciousness, no problem. But you be happy, and with faith and determination you continue. So recognizing Krishna's love, recognizing Krishna's acceptance of us, recognizing Krishna's kindness will help the devotee go through this phase. Krishna says, Aham bija pradapita, I'm the father of everyone. Krishna as Super Soul accompanies us through body after body after body. Whether we're a dog, a lizard, an insect, a bird, a tree, or a human being that we are now, Krishna is with us. And in his own way, and in his own time, Krishna will let us know from inside that he was always with us, and he will always be with us. The devotee in the desert phase is feeling, he's chanting the holy name, he recognizes, I'm very far from perfect, but Krishna has got my back. This is a saving grace. So let me read why some people in this part leave. This is again from the Japa book. Many devotees struggle with chanting because before they can take shelter of Krishna's name, they have to travel to the desert of seeing the truth about themselves, that they have little sincerity and no taste, that the mind is uncontrolled and filled with anarthas, and they have no power to help themselves. This stage is necessary because it convinces us that we have nothing to depend on except Krishna's holy name. Only when we understand this fact can we chant with a full heart. But it is not easy to cross that desert, and some devotees give up before they reach to the other side. But if we're able to recognize that Krishna loves me, Krishna's got my back, and I can't depend on my abilities anymore, I really can't. I'm now reaching up to Krishna. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains it like this. Jivere kalyana sadhanakam jagate yoshie madhuranam avidyati miratapana rupe ridagagane viraje. What happens? Avidya timira tapana rupe ridagagane viraj. That if some of you are Bengali, forgive me for my attempts at pronouncing Bengali. But the sky of the heart, now we may not see the sun rising, but we can see the crack of dawn. And that crack of dawn is this Nishtha stage where one is experiencing Namashraya. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Krishna nama shuddha koryopan jagate yoshie madhuranam. Then? No, I said it wrong. Krishna nama shuddha koryopan. Then? How was it? You don't know. I forget. I'm forgetting the song now. This is the last verse of Udilo Aruna. You know the song? You know the song? Anyway. No, the last verse. No. A different song altogether. Okay. Anyway, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Chauda Bhuvana Maje, that there's no other, anything of value, that I see nothing of value except for the holy name in the 14 worlds. This is finding shelter in Krishna's names. Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnana amanina mahanadena kirtaniya sadahari. This is where the devotee is fixed in humility, become really tolerant because of that humility, and is ready to offer all respect to others, not wanting respect for himself, because he sees if he gets respect, it's like poison. A Brahmana sees fame and respect as poison, and he sees criticism as nectar. In conditioned life, it's the opposite. In this stage of Nishtha, devotee association becomes even more precious. So much so, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in his Bhajan Rahasya that in this stage, the devotee is so attached to devotee association that he says, may I become a worm or an insect in the house of a devotee, no problem, but I do not want to be a Brahma who's averse to you, Krishna. That's the level of appreciation of devotee association in this stage. And it's true that our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita that devotee association is the most important factor from the beginning all the way to the end. Even in the prema stage, devotee association is essential. In Nishtha, we look forward to chanting and any devotional activity with freshness, with a reset button every day. It's not hackneyed. And someone is feeling very tolerant like a tree. So much so, like a tree gets rain and sun and scorched by the sun and cut down sometimes, yet the tree will give shade, will give fruits, will give flowers, will serve other people. That's the quality of a tree. A person in the Nishtha stage has the capacity to do that. We should not try to imitate it. I remember I was on a call with our Guru Maharaj one time, and there was a few disciples, and he shared with us that he is going through the toughest time of his life. on that call. And then he said, and then for the rest of the call, he was just instructing us and giving us shelter. And I was thinking, wow, that's tree. Taking the heat, yet can give us a lot of love and affection and training. Some of you may remember from yesterday we talked about a person in the bhajana kriya stage is experiencing no taste. One of the reasons they don't experience taste is because we want material comforts. And one of those subtle material comforts is people pleasing. I try to please others. Of course, that creates resentment after all. And I don't know how to say no. I get stuck with not being able to say no. Here, when taking shelter of the holy name, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, one stops being a people pleaser. And you're able to say no when it is wholesome to say no. Here's a verse that he says, O Lord, kindly bestow upon me the mercy in the form of your sidelong glance, followed by the sweet sound of your flute. When you're pleased with me, even if others are displeased, it doesn't matter. But when you're displeased with me, even if others are pleased, then what is the benefit for me? See? I learned something from Vaisheshika Prabhu, that generally we're all thinking about how others are thinking about us. But if everyone is thinking the same way, then who's thinking about the other person? No one, right? The only person who's thinking about us is Krishna, in one sense. Generally thinking about us. So, Nishtha, Namashaya, taking shelter of the holy name. We have come to the end of our journey here, Japa journey map. Here we show a little rocket taking off, because this is where the Nishtha stage is, after which you kind of go downhill, or you could say up into the stages, the higher stages of bhakti. Next comes Ruchi, then Asakti, and so forth. But Nishtha is a very, very beautiful and important stage that we all aspire for. So tomorrow when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, hopefully up to 64 or even more rounds, that we can try to remember some of these principles, know that we might pass through a desert. My first 64 rounds this month, or I say December, when I joined Maharaj in Phoenix, it was dry. It was dry. The whole 8.5 hours was dry, like, I don't know, dry oil cake or something. It was really sad. You might go through something like that, but just stick with it. Jiveta, remember? Staying alive. Stick with it. So I will pause there. Did anyone not get a copy of this map? If you haven't got, just raise your hand and Ashish Prabhu will make sure you get a copy. And we can open it up for some questions now before we do the bhajan that Arpana has prepared. Ready to go? Okay. Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for such an enlightening lecture, I would say. So, my question is, I don't even know if it is a question. So, between mind and heart, who should win? Whom should you listen, and whose judgment will be considered correct? So the thing is, mind, when you start controlling, there is a lot of things related to mind. First thing comes ego. Sometimes you want to listen to your heart, but then the mind is like, how it captures you. No, you like those things. But when you listen to your heart, I feel the path is always open. It always leads you to the correct way. So when the heart is filled with devotion for Krishna, with love, the mind can easily be controlled. Like, for example, when somebody is in love, all they can think about is their lover. So the mind is also captivated by that thought, so because the heart is filled with that much love for. So the same way should apply for the devotion also. So instead of controlling always the mind, wouldn't be it nice to have that much love instead in our heart that all our mind could think is Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So out of all those things, the first question that I asked, I'll repeat that again. Who should win? The heart or the mind? And whose judgment should be considered the correct one? The heart or the mind? So I don't know if it is a question or it got confusing or anything like that.
I'll share some thoughts and maybe it addresses the question. Although it seemed to me that you already know the answer to the question. Prabhupada says that we should learn to disobey the mind. We really should learn to disobey the mind. And the heart, to your point, when the heart is filled with affection, then the mind naturally gets controlled. Rupa Goswami prays, he tells Krishna that, may my mind become attracted to you, just like a young boy gets attracted to a young girl, and a girl gets attracted to a young boy. I'm not young anymore, but I assume, I still remember some of those crushes, as they used to say. So it's overwhelming. And so like that, when the heart is inclined towards Krishna, then two things. One, the mind is automatically controlled. But two, even if it's not controlled, if the heart is in the right place, the heart will try to control the mind. So it's not that they're separate. So if we can or we can act from a place of the heart, and that place of the heart, we may not have love for Krishna, but what is that immature stage that we might be at? That immature stage is sincerity. That's at the heart level. I want my relationship with Krishna. I want to please Krishna. It's that sincerity at that heart level which drives all the other activity, including listening to a lecture like this that's so depressing. Which is, I want to grow, so I want to know what's ahead on the path. And I want to control my mind, because then my heart can access Krishna. So they're not separate. I don't see them as separate. But the foundation is the heart, from which that sincerity exudes and helps to control the mind. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay. We'll take one more question, and if those that you have a question, or we got to do you, because you're going to be singing, so I don't want to displease you. Two questions up front, and then for those who have comments or questions, I'll be happy to chat afterwards. But yeah, Arpana and Prabhu, your name, yeah.
So the first thing was I just wanted to offer a reflection. I think that right now the map is very focused on Japa, but for me, something that I also try to think about is how this is a map on becoming Krishna conscious, right? Like as a whole, zooming out and just thinking about myself personally and professionally, this kind of looking at it in this like meandering route, which encourages us to understand our own insignificance, understand our role and Krishna's role and everyone else's role in context with Krishna, and operating from a place of humility are things that I think are universally really significant. Just my own reflection is that it's not just even limited to Japa, but how we can try to embody these things, whether we're operating interpersonally, whether we're doing it at work, whether we're having conflict with a person that we care about. Just appreciating that I think this is really valuable for all of that. It's Japa and everything else. To me is like
well
true
said.
Krishna consciousness. And then my question is, in the Bhajana Kriya stage, there is that portion of practicing detachment that you were talking about. And I think for me, I would love to know what detachment truly looks like. I think that there can be a lot of, like you said, false detachment or posturing that often justifies ambivalence, which I personally don't think is true detachment. So I would just appreciate any additional kind of insight and context that you might have to help us determine what is detachment in the right direction versus what is kind of pandering to like a false sense of, oh, like this is not, you know, part of me, I'm not going to dabble in it or whatever.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, very apt and insightful. As far as detachment goes, I really love this. I've meditated on it for, I don't know, 15 years. Something that Maharaj has said, Rampal Maharaj. Detachment is I don't care, is not I don't care. It's a common misunderstanding that detachment is I don't care. Detachment, very simply put, is to give up the idea, or to detach from the idea I have anything to detach from. Nothing is mine. And another way to look at detachment is that I detach from being a controller and trying to fix situations and fix people. It's the rescue mentality that perpetuates drama and drama triangle. If you know the drama triangle concept, I'll show it to you later. But it perpetuates drama. Being a rescuer and trying to fix things, it's not helpful. We can certainly be a coach, but not a rescuer in interpersonal relationships. And then the focus that I went towards yesterday when describing this was that detachment around detaching from the past of how we do our japa and detaching from the future of this I will, and getting anxiety about it, I will do blah blah in the future, whether it be for my japa or interpersonal or career, whatever, what have you. So detachment is being present, in other words.
That's helpful, and I think for me especially something that I have like concerns or worries about is that if I strive to become detached, will my heart harden?
Yes.
Like kind of like that fear, because I think sometimes if it's not done correctly, that's something that can happen. So just that push-pull there, but
Yes.
I appreciated the way that you phrased it as like a softness as opposed to...
It's love. True detachment is where you love more, and you're you're not attached to people. You love them more. You care about them more. You don't give up that part. Shishi, Nitai Sachinandan ki jai.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the last question before we enter into our song.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. My question is about our sincerity. Our sincerity at no taste and another nivriti stage, is it just to realize that we have a volume of impurities, and we have a volume of impurities, and that's to bring us to humility and shelter of Krishna's name? Because yesterday Maharaj's one of the question was like, are you confident that you will get to the end, or like you will become pure, right? So if we answer yes, that means we are trying to sincerely practice at anartha nivriti and no taste stage. Is it just to realize that whatever I am practicing is just to realize that I have a volume of impurities and therefore I should just depend on Krishna's holy name? Or is it something else?
That's one of it. It's certainly to, like, as I progress further, my sincerity is to recognize my dependence, is your point. Yes, that's part of it. But also, as we go along, to recognize what makes up our subtle body. So we can also serve accordingly. I'll tell you, a devotee that I know, purposefully, they purposefully go through another person to share something very meaningful, because they know if they share it, they'll get some credit for it. So I know I have that tendency to get proud in a certain way. So someone in Bhirad Bhagavatamrita, it is said, those who are wise people, they pursue humility. They pursue ways in which they can be in a lower position. So to also yes, to depend on Krishna ultimately, but also to know how to serve Krishna while I'm getting purified in different ways. So that's also another benefit from it. Makes sense?
Not just realizing that it is a desert of. That's not the point of doing japa at anartha nivritti stage.
It's a point of finally of taking shelter, namashaya. So remember, sincerity leads, genuine sincerity, sustained genuine sincerity leads to humility, and humility leads to namashaya. That's where the train is going. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you all very much. We're now going to do this song, which is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing in Harinam Chintamani, which is a prayer to the holy name. Just, again, personal sharing. This song has been a guiding light for me. I recite it every day for the last 15 years. I heard it at Badahari Prabhu singing it with Ramapada Maharaj in one festival holy name. And since then, it's just been something I relish very much. It is Haridas Thakur chant, prayers to the holy name, who is our Namacharya. So Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So Arpana will take us away here. Shall I read the translation first and then? Okay. So the first line says, "Be merciful unto me." Probably the text is a little. "Be merciful unto me, assuming the form of the name, constantly dance upon my tongue, O Lord, I hold your feet. Keep me here or take me there, whatever is your desire. Wherever this body remains, kindly give me the nectar of Krishna Nam. Your avatar has descended to distribute the name to the people of this world. Kindly accept me as one of those people. I am fallen and you are the deliverer of the fallen, or purifier of the fallen. That is our relationship. The relationship between you and I can never be broken. This fallen person desires the nectar of the holy name."
कृपा करे नाम रूपे अमर जीवाय निरंतर नाचा प्रभु तरित पाया। जग जाने नाम दिते तब तारा जग जन मजा मोरे करांगे करा जग जन नाम दिते तव अवतारा जग जाने माजे मोरे अंगीकारा नाचे प्रभु तारी तव पाया कृपा करी नाम रूपे अमर जीवाया निरंतर नाचे प्रभु तारी तव पाया Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare सचिनंदन की, श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की, हिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
Prashad?
महाप्रसादे गोविंदे, नमो ब्राह्मणी वैष्णवे, स्वप पुण्यं वितं राजन्, विश्वासो नैव जायते, शारीरा विद्याजा, जोडिन्द्रियता हिका, जीवे फिले विषय सागरे, तारमदे जीवायति, लोभमोह दुर्मति, ताके जीता कठिन संसारे, कृष्ण बरदयामय, करिबारे जीव जय, स्वप्रसादन दिलो बाय, सेयनामृत पाओ, राधा कृष्ण गुण गाओ, प्रेमे डाको चैतन्य निताय, जय निमाय जय निताय, जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर, श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री श्रीनिताय सचिनंदन